All right, everyone. United and angry is how Donald Trump is now explaining the character of the Republican Party, specifically over Uranium One and the Russian Dossier stuff. Of course, with the Uranium One scandal, and, the Democrats are trying to brush it off and say nothing happened. Oh, there is no scandal. It's a nothing burger. It doesn't appear that way. There was an FBI investigation that occurred. The Clinton Foundation is at least mentioned in that investigation. That's substantial. It's significant. It probably warrants the House getting involved as it is now. I can't remember who's leading the charge on that one, but they're looking into it. The Russian dossier, the fusion GPS story, is more meaningful even than Uranium One. Look, if both of them are absolutely true and there was Democrat collusion involved, Uranium One would be more substantial. That would be treasonous activity. It would go far beyond, sort of the election problems of the fusion GPS. But fusion GPS is much more provably true. We know that funding came to it from the DNC. We knew that essentially a McMullen version anti-Trump conservative group, sort of like I think the Reagan Battalion sort of side of things, was responsible for crafting this bullshit. The Democratic Party then, and at least someone within the Clinton camp, paid in order to spread and promulgate it, violating election law in the process. So it's more meaningful in the sense that we know that there was funny business going on. Now we just have to figure out how high the funny business went. By the way, it's not going to touch Clinton herself. On either end, look, even the Uranium One deal, if the foundation gets in trouble, she'll just say, well, I didn't know this was going on. Yeah, some upper manager did it. The Podesta did it or something. She'll throw somebody else under the bus. She's not going to take any blame for it. People hoping she's going to be in prison, they're fooling themselves. She never will. She will die a free woman, probably of another stroke or something like that at some point, because she's in poor health, it seems. And if you look at her recent interviews, she looks a little bit upset or scattered. She looks a little bit unfocused. I think something's going on and has gotten under her skin. Could it be the recent unfolding of the Podesta group? Yeah, probably. She's probably a little bit worried that some more Clinton Foundation donations are going to dry up. She's not worried for herself, trust me. And she doesn't care if John Podesta or anyone else associated with her gets thrown in jail, so that's not what's bothering her. It's probably money related. Oh shit, well there goes that $10-20 million a year too, along with all these other places drying up. But as far as Trump browbeating the GOP, here's my take on it. He's saying that the GOP is united, and at least to his core fans, which make up a fairly large total within the Republican movement, as well as a lot of centrists who had never voted Republican before, which is what some of the never-Trumpers are really concerned about losing. That would start to get them nervous, I think. What's happened is that by casting the GOP as united, anyone that breaks rank with him on this and says, no, we don't need to investigate, any never-Trumpers saying, well, this is a deflection from Mueller or something, he'll come out and he'll attack them and say, oh, well, this is obviously a Republican who doesn't want to be unified, part of the swamp, part of the establishment, get him out of here, and he'll say basically vote him out of office. That's what he'll do. It's a smart strategy and it could work. In some of these districts, you have to understand there's a difference. People look at national polling or national results or national this, national that. Look at the states and especially the congressional districts when you're looking at these people's behavior. If you've got some Republican in a district that Trump won by 20, 30 points, they're probably going to be reluctant to call Trump out. As opposed to a Republican who happened to win in a state that's more blue, in a district that it went for them but it didn't go for Trump, like on state level it's pro-Republican. There are areas in the country, Deep South famously, you've got a lot of state-level Democrats down there, but nationally it goes Republican. Then there are places that, like here, we've got a Republican governor in the state of Vermont. And he's not far right or anything. He's an anti-Trump, like a rhino Republican, truly. Although we didn't know that at the time when the voting happened, so that doesn't really matter in the argument. A Republican governor in a state that went heavily for Clinton, in the past went much more heavily for Obama, has voted a socialist back into the Senate over and over again now for, 30 years. That's significant that this happens. You've got to take that into consideration when you think of people's policies. It's like, why do you think Bernie Sanders is not an anti-gun leftist figure? Part of that is honestly, he's lived in Vermont and realizes probably on a personal level it's not a problem for people to own a lot of guns. But number two, he'd probably lose a lot of support if he did take it up as an issue. He's not going to take it up. At the very least, he's not going to lead the charge. It's not going to happen. Why do you think Sanders voted against invading Iraq? Now, he did, afterwards, he votes in favor of funding the war, which is basically selling out. But he voted against starting the war, to his credit. I think he was only one of two people actually to do that, and I can't remember who the second one was. Was Ron Paul in office at the time? Was he the other one? I don't know. Or some Kucinich figure. I know Kucinich is generally a pacifist. I don't know if he was in office at the time. But, yeah, Trump is going to browbeat the GOP over these issues. Because you got to realize, here's something that a lot of people haven't considered. They're acting as though they know that they have some gnosis that Trump colluded with the Russians and he's about to be impeached. I disagree, by the way. I do not believe that even remotely. We'll see who's right. If Trump, however, did not, and he knows that he didn't, and he knows what's going on, then there's no reason not to ramble about all these issues because they're going to backfire on all of his opponents. What other purpose? If he thought he did something wrong and didn't have a reason to believe that these scandals were meaningful in form, why would he bother talking about them? Because then it would backfire on him. If he colluded with the Russians, he'd be silent as a mouse when it came to the issue. He wouldn't be trying to bully Mueller. He's probably doing that just to sow discord. He wants people's eyes on what Mueller is doing. Why do you think he's doing that? Could it be a grand strategy to get you to focus on Mueller's indictment so that when the next person is Tony Podesta or John Podesta or something like that, or when they say, yeah, the Podesta group laundered like, $50 million for Paul Manafort, and this was back when he was working for the Democrats. That's what, yeah, says Mueller, that's what I'm actually investigating. Hang recent times, it doesn't matter because we found no evidence of collusion. If that happens, he wants you to know that it happened. He wants all your eyes on it. It would just make sense. Now, this is speculation. It could be that Tony Podesta doesn't get indicted. Could be a bunch of other, Republican or right-leaning or Trump-aligned individuals. Roger Stone could be on the list for all we know. And they all get thrown in jail for money laundering. Not Donald Trump, though. This is talking about stuff that happened 10 years before he took office. I don't think he's worried I don't think Trump has lost even a wink of the very short amount of sleep that he gets every night over any of this. In fact, I think he sleeps like a baby thinking of Fusion GPS blowing up in the Democrats' faces. That one, they keep talking about Uranium 1. Have you noticed that all the Democratic shills that, you can sort of tell who they are. They're Republican shills too, so don't think I'm being one-sided here. Have you noticed that whenever they're trying to deflect, they always mention Uranium 1? And they never want to talk about Fusion GPS. They never use the term. They never talk about the Dossier. They never want to talk about the Washington Free Beacon. They never want to talk about O'Keefe. It was for a while there, they would mock O'Keefe. They would come out and say, yeah, but he got like sued by Planned Parenthood years ago, so he's just nuts. And the Acorn Project stuff was like botched, even though it led to many firings and lawsuits and stuff like that. But trust me, it wasn't true at the time, even though it was. But he's basically a fraud. They don't say that anymore. They don't want to talk about him. They don't want you to think about James O'Keefe or mention his name. Why do you think that is? Because he's intrinsically involved with what's his name there? The DNC working dude there managing that other side project. Bob Creamer, I think it was his name. He steps down right after the videos are released and never gives any explanations because he was hiding his ass, basically, and protecting his little Democrat-aligned firm. You have Tony Podesta. He steps down, even though he has not actually been named by Mueller. Now, why do you think that is? Did he get some advance warning something was coming? Now, obviously, if he looked at the report, somebody told him, hey, Tony, our company is Company A on this indictment. There's a problem. Why would he step down? Why wouldn't he stand there and defend his company if he had no inkling that something bad was coming? Now, apparently, they're talking about stripping the name Podesta from the Podesta Group entirely to shield themselves. They're probably going to hemorrhage money. They're probably going to get sued. They're going to have to pay the piper. because they probably embezzled a bunch of Ukrainian money. Now, I think I see something larger happening here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that both the anti-Russian Ukrainian side and the pro-Russian side have been set against one another by supposedly different sides, like the Manafort versus Podesta side, even though they're actually working together and embezzling from both groups. Doesn't it seem like some sort of grand conspiracy to profit off of conflict? Now, that's funny, because, of course, in the past, both groups of people have said, well, this is a problem when it's done by governments, like, you know, the military complex, like a Halliburton or something, going into Iraq, making billions of dollars off of hundreds of thousands of deaths. Okay, yeah, and by the way, that's true. What about, like, the crisis in Crimea and things like that? Could we be seeing, like, an investigation that essentially is into some weird deep state op to cause a conflict over there in order to extract tribute from two different economies by having two different groups of people that are actually working together pretend to be opposing one another? Oh yeah, says Manafort, I'll go sabotage your enemies that are screwing with you. It's, you know, the Democrats are trying to overthrow you. I'll try to stop them, but I need money, I need resources, so wink wink, nudge nudge, have your mafiosos hook me up. Meanwhile, the Podestas have someone go over to Russia and do the same thing. Or something like that. It looks like some really weird espionage stuff happened. I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg with Manafort. But again, all the Democrats that were talking about it, when they first learned he got indicted, they're like, oh, haha, you know, Trump-aligned person got indicted. Then they found out it was for things that happened before he was working with Trump, back when he was working with the Podestas. All of a sudden, Manafort drops off trending. None of them want to talk about him. My goodness, what happened? And Ben Shapiro, who I don't even like, pointed out something really funny. He's right when he says this, that the Republicans that were booing Mueller, when they learned what the time range was involved with the indictment, all of a sudden they shut up and they were praising him. Oh, yeah, fuck Manafort, basically, throw him under the bus. Poor Manafort. I feel sorry for the dude. He's spending, what was it? He's spending $18 million on real estate during this period. And now, of course, his lavish lifestyle is likely to be reduced to, hey, you're in a federal prison. Now, that's nicer than, like, going to the Maxi or something. He'll have, you know, his 2-room personal cell suite with the double-wide window and the color TV, maybe. Yeah, and reasonable access to the internet so he can go shitpost on Twitter. Yes, Mr. Manafort, you can have your phone. It's just, you know, we're going to shove it up your ass every day during your cavity check. Yeah, we want to make sure there's no drugs inside there. You must be this wide to use the toilet. I'm sorry, but the imagery is funny. But, yeah, I mean, he's probably going to go to jail. So is this, what is his name, Graves or whatever, Podesta. If he's named, he's probably going to jail. There's probably a reason he stepped down as the head of the Podesta group. Poor John Podesta's sitting there sweating bullets. I mean, he's already watching all his friends in Hollywood get blamed for being perverts, so he's getting it from both sides. He's getting it on the DC and on the Hollyweird side right now. I don't know if he's slept in days. Post-Weinstein, probably. At the very least, he has to trank himself. That's about all. Peace out.